technology is improving by leaps and bounds. It's amazing. AI is not going to kind of vanish. The biggest threat AI faces is the hype from humans. So some amount of hype busting will happen.
Okay.
Bubble busting will happen, but not a full collapse like it happened in the past. The AI will be able to solve the problem all by itself. So you really need the humans to learn how to work with these AI models. We still haven't quite cracked the monetization angle. There will be a backlash for the extreme hype that people are talking about, how AGI is around the corner and things like that. I don't think AGI is around the corner.
A very warm welcome to the special discussion on how artificial intelligence will impact us in 2026 and beyond. I am T. Amiruddin. I am joined by Professor Balaraman Ravindran, who is one of India's topmost experts in artificial intelligence. Professor B. Ravindran is the head of Wadhwani School of Data Sciences and AI at the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Professor, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Which are the areas will be impacted by AI in 2026 and beyond?
So AI is not a single technology, right? So there is no one easy answer to this question. So I believe that almost all endeavors that we are involved in will get modified by the use of AI. Just like how computers as a technology has changed almost everybody, right? Whether you are a writer, whether you are whether you are an accountant, whether you are a lawyer, whether you are a musician, right? Computers have actually changed how you do things today, right? I mean, so you don't write the same way. How many people, young generation, know how to use a typewriter? In fact, how many have even seen a typewriter, for that matter, right? I mean, I have passed higher, lower, and higher when I was in school. It was considered, essential skill that everybody should get through. But nowadays, people don't even know what a typewriter is, right? So things will change. Everything is so this is as impactful a technology as computers. So you are going to have a significant displacement in some sense in the kind of skills and other things that people are going to use for doing their jobs. Right? So it's, I mean, whether it is my teaching job or whether it is my other job as a researcher, right, or whether it is your job as a journalist, right, or whether it is his job as a cameraman, everything is going to get affected by the use of AI. So, and there's no one.
So can you just specify some of the areas which will be where the skills and jobs will be affected more?
I wish I had a crystal ball, I could tell you that. So one thing that we are seeing significant changes, right, is just in communication, right? So how do you write? Right? So people can, or in fact, like I was jokingly saying the other day, one of the immediate impacts of AI is the quality of letters I get asking for internships has improved tremendously in the last year or so, right? So I find people writing very well framed sentences, talking about my research, summarizing it in like 3 sentences and so on and so forth. And I mean, it sounds very nice when you read it. But then you see the 5th letter that has the same kind of text in it, then you know that these kids are all using AI to generate these, right? So communication is going to become very good, right? So I mean, so everybody, I mean, whether you know how to write good English or not, right? As long as you are able to communicate your thoughts to the AI, right? I mean, put some fragmented sentence in and ask it to give me a good paragraph or good essay on this topic. It's going to be able to do that. Right? So that is one thing. So any place where you rely on your ability to wordsmith, right? It's going to be challenged, right? So that is one place which I see. The other one, of course, you see a lot of impact is in programming. So the basic expertise in syntax, right? Being able to correctly just write the code without mistakes and debugging and things like that. So that skill is going to get less and less value, right? So what you're going to see is you need people who can conceptualize a solution, right? Take a problem, break it down into pieces, break it down into modules, and then use the AI to write those modules, and then use the AI to test those modules, and so on and so forth. So you are going to need those kinds of skill sets more and more. So you're probably going to need fewer people because there'll be less people, trying to write the code, right? While the AI is going to start producing these codes for you. Right? And also it's going to help you write code at a much faster rate because with all the auto completion, it sometimes can give you, whole sections of the program without having to write line by line. So you can very quickly put the code together. So all of this is going to change how you write programs in a big way. It's not that programmers are going to go away, but the kind of skills you would need to become a good programmer is going to change. right? And it's going to enable a whole set of new things that you can do, right? So while earlier programming was like a niche, right? So you needed to have a big enterprise company that's going to work on putting out well-tested software. Now with the easy tools to write code and test software and things like that, you can have a boutique company of 4 people writing, starting to write, bespoke code for small companies that want to put out a specific solution. So those kinds of jobs are also going to get enabled. So the advanced skill sets that AI is putting out is going to help you to look at different kinds of problems that we weren't able to solve earlier. But like I said, these are two things which I know for sure will get significantly affected. And the usual cliche is any job that is repetitive, right, and that can be just done by following a rote set of rules, right, is something that AI is going to get good at very quickly. But then any automation will get good at those kinds of jobs also.
But you cannot completely remove the human intervention, right?
Most cases, yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
But you need at least to write the program. No, you need people, right?
Technically, the AI industry wants you to believe that eventually you can do it without people. But I'm not seeing the evidence for that yet. These programs still make mistakes. And the more complex the program that you ask it to write without any human intervention, the more likely it is going to get things wrong. So the best use out of it is to use the human to break it down into the right chunks, and then have the AI write the code for the chunks and then put it together, right? So that makes it more reliable, more efficient way of coding. So the human is still needed in the loop, right? And there are other things, right? This technology can make some things redundant. We can't predict it. So, for example, we have trunk calling, that we needed to have telephone operators. Right? Technology moved ahead. We don't know telephone operators. We don't see an STD booth anymore. Everybody has long distance calling on their mobile phone. We didn't even think of this, right? And so some things might get completely eliminated.
But you mentioned about the internship letters you get so often. And will it be boring to get same kind of style, same kind of thing? And will it be boring to live in an AI world?
I think people will figure out that they have to still do something different to stand out in this world, right? So it'll change, right? So if you, I can't immediately think of an analogy, but for example, when the computers started becoming prevalent in the 60s, right? So the Time magazine wrote an article that said by the 1980s, right, in 20 years' time, nearly 40% of the world's population is going to be idle, because computers will do everything for them. And in sometimes people might have to be paid to not work, because there will not be enough work for humans to do. This is what they anticipated with the introduction of computers in the 60s. That obviously hasn't happened. I still have to work to get a salary, right? I presume you also have to. So it's not that So there always is expectation, right? So jobs are going to get go away. They're going to get boring and things like that. But the hype is far ahead of reality right now, right? And going back to your question about AI homogenizing the output, creative output of people. That would happen, right? Then what will happen is people are going to figure out, like I said, that they have to do something different to appear, to stand out in this world, right? So now people started using AI because they think, they have to write well, so they get over this disadvantage of writing. Maybe the ability to actually wordsmith might become important, right? And so people might stand out for their ability to wordsmith. While the general, so instead of standing out in a world of bad prose because you are a good writer, you'll stand out in a world of uniformly bland prose that is correct because you have quirky writing and you make mistakes and and things like that. So like you can't predict how these things will evolve, but humans have a infinite capacity to adapt, and I'm pretty sure we will make the world interesting even if AI tries to homogenize it. But it is a worrisome time, like I know many people who are actually feeling lost. In fact, I've had conversations with people in the US who do quality control, right? Quality assist, quality check for software engineers, QC engineers. Right? So they were basically asking, if AI is going to write perfect code all the time, what will happen to my job? Right? This guy actually was at a loss. I mean, you could see it in his face. He felt, the entire meaning of his professional career is gone, right? And it's yeah, it's challenging times to
I
live
think
through.
here I
Yeah.
can bring in the example of Salesforce,
Mhm.
one of the leading enterprise software company, which recently retrenched 4,000 employees.
Mhm.
Now, in a recent report, they're rethinking on it because some of in a real world experience, the AI agents failed. That's what the report says.
So there are. I mean, I think the hype, like I said, is far ahead of reality, right? So the core technology that's being used in AI, right, relies on predicting the most likely outcome, right? And of course, there are a lot of variations in the world, and the AI, because of the nature of the technology, is able to adapt to some of these variations. But if there is something that it has never seen in the training, it never seen before, it never happened before, it's a new situation that comes up, right? It wouldn't know what to do. I mean, there might not be a natural way to kind of extrapolate from what it has seen so far, right?
Yeah.
So within, say, suppose I know what to do in A, I know what to do in B, then I can possibly do something in the midpoint A B. But if I have to do something that's like 10 times away from B, I might not know what to do there, right? So whatever is within the scope of my experience, I'll be able to do it. Too far outside what I have been trained on, I will not be able to do it, because the AI is not forming a specific theory. It's not thinking about, hey, why does the world behave the way it does? I've observed the world is behaving this way, and I'll use that to make any predictions, answer any questions about what will happen in the future. But I'm not forming a theory about. So this is what people call causal theories, right? It really doesn't form a causal theory about how the world is going to behave. So it doesn't know about how things, what will happen in situations that it has not seen in the training at all. So that is exactly what is happening in the Salesforce situation. They probably are coming across new ways of doing business, or new queries that have come in that they never had a chance to look at before. It could very well be that you are getting an AI maintenance query which you had never been trained on, because there were no AI maintenance to worry about in the past. So in your past data, you might not have had this. Just by introducing an AI tool into the picture, you are now creating new scenarios
Correct.
which you can't
Yeah,
train on.
yeah.
So these kinds of things, it might fail on you. So you need to, I mean, the way people are fixing it now is to kind of put a band-aid. They generate more training data on the things that this has failed on, and then they try to do this, right?
Yeah.
So it's not quite where humans are. Humans actually reason about these things, saying, okay, so what will I do in this situation? I did something like that earlier, but then that's not what is causing the problem. So we can actually do this kind of reasoning.
Yeah.
While the AI models are not yet there, even though whatever they call as reasoning models and so on and so forth are not quite there. They're pushing the needle, very much so. But we have quite some ways from actually having something that can completely replicate human intelligence. So I think, like I said, a lot of things that we do, right, can be significantly aided by the use of AI. Things can happen faster, right? Things can happen more efficiently. Things can happen more correctly in terms of, like, already talked about language, but you can also talk about music. You can talk about other kinds of things where people require significant training before they become proficient at it, but AI can cut the training time significantly for humans, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the AI will be able to solve the problem all by itself. So you really need the humans to learn how to work with these AI models to solve the problems in their domain of interest going forward, right? Whether you're an auditor, whether you're a lawyer. But heaven's sake, law is a huge problem, right? It actually cooks up references. If you push it hard enough, it will cook up a case for you, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into trouble. So, but that doesn't mean that you cannot use it to summarize existing cases, right? So you have to read through 1,000 cases. You can get the AI to summarize 1,000 cases and give you things. But you have to instruct it very carefully. Don't add any additional information that is not there in this text that you are reading. Then it will give you the right summary, and then you can use that and then build your own impression on it. So that's how we should be using AI.
So again, the development, it's an ongoing process, right?
It's an ongoing process. Yeah. AI technology is improving by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we have cracked a problem which we thought will take us another few decades to solve 3 years back even, right? The question of language,
Mhm.
the question of communication, whether it's language or vision or speech. I think AI is at a level where we did not imagine it will be at for another
But again,
15 to
there are a
20
lot of
years.
problems too. Still, it's continuing.
No,
For
the problems
example,
are there.
the problem of racism,
Yeah, I mean, racism is one thing. Prejudices, I mean, the
prejudice. Yep,
stereotypes.
yep.
So I wouldn't even call it. I mean, racism is fine in the Western context. Right? In the Indian context, we don't call it racism. We call it prejudice. We call it all the other kinds of settings here, right? So I think it's a problem. I mean, not just that. There are a whole bunch of other things that are issues. For example, you know. In the north, people say Madras East. So I mean, many people say that, and from south, most of North Indians are we have our own stereotypes, and if you are training it on these models, or we want to make sure they don't amplify the stereotypes. And the way they are actually addressing this in the US, right, in other societies where these kind of this bigotry is well understood, right? They actually have records, right? They know, okay, what are all the words, what are the different ways in which people use these slur words, what are things to watch out for, and so on and so forth. Then they can basically say, you don't use the N word here, don't use this, don't use that. So they can have this list of things on which they can write rules, they can train the model to watch out for, right? But in Indian context, we don't have that.
Yeah, that's what you suggested,
Yeah.
forming our own.
We have to do that. We have done some work in our Center for Responsible AI. We have
Yeah.
started doing some work. There are other things. IIT Bombay's Professor Pushpa.
How's the progress? No?
Progress is slow. It's very challenging, right? India is very diverse, very, very diverse country. And even if you take, how many languages in India have at least 1 lakh speakers? It runs into thousands. We talk about 22 languages in India, but then if you look for small languages, right, quote unquote small, but 1 lakh is like, a significant number. It's just for Indian population size, it's not, it's a very insignificant percentage, so we can afford to ignore it.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the complexity in India, right, is like mind-boggling, right? So we have done some work on trying to create this kind of stereotype data sets in English. This is like Indian stereotypes
Indian
in English,
stereotypes,
caste and things like that, right? Yeah. Now, if I translate that into another Indian language and I ask a native speaker, hey, does this sentence sound okay to you? He'll say, no. This doesn't sound like something that I would say in my language to talk about stereotype.
Okay. Then how will it work? How can you find a solution?
You have to do that in Indian languages. You have to do that in every language. You have to go and actually talk to people, native speakers, and get some samples from them, and then use those samples to seed your text generation. You can't do this by translation. A large amount of work that is happening for Indian languages is by translation. In fact, they use this tool called IndicTrans 2, which is developed at IIT Madras by AI for Bharat. Right, so led by my colleague Mitesh.
Okay.
So that IndicTrans 2 is the tool that people are using now for generating Indian language data and then training models based on that thing. Right. So if IndicTrans 2 gets something wrong, then everybody is training on the wrong data only. So, and that is okay for large, I mean, just for the language production and so on and so forth, because IndicTrans 2 is fairly good. It's actually very good.
Will the AI face any threats in 2026?
AI face any threats? Oh, wow. Okay. That's not a question. I mean, usually people are always asking me questions about, hey, is AI going to threaten humanity? What threat does AI pose? AI face, I mean, as always, my answer has been the same for at least for a few years now. The biggest threat AI faces is the hype from humans. Right? So what is going to happen is that people are going to start using AI in applications for which it is not ready yet, because the hype needs to be justified. Just like Salesforce did, right? At least it was just back office work, so it's okay. It's CRM work, right? So Salesforce makes mistakes, it's okay. People are not dying. But then somebody puts these AI things in something much more critical. Right, and then something catastrophic goes wrong, it's going to set back, AI investment, AI research, AI funding in a big way. I mean, heaven forbid something goes critically wrong and there is loss of human life or things like that because somebody decided that AI was ready to do this. I mean, the cost is unimaginable. So I think that is one of the threats that we are always living with, and I hope it doesn't come to that, right? And I hope that some point, we get into some slowing down of the hype, so so that people don't feel the necessity to justify by putting AI in more and more critical applications. So they can slow down, take a deep breath, step back, and actually do more responsible development of AI.
Yeah, the hype is always there, and that is what even recently I read a piece by Karen Ho. She is somewhat predicting this AI bubble will burst.
There will be a backlash for the extreme hype that people are talking about, how AGI is around the corner and things like that. I don't think AGI is around the corner. I think very, very capable AI is around the corner. Very smart AI systems are around the corner, but not AGI. Right? I mean, so yeah, so AGI, which is very loosely defined, right? So if, let's say that some model that is as good as a human in every task, right? So I think that's not rare, right? So I think we are going to have models that are very good in some specialized tasks, right? So there'll be a model that's very good in coding, right? So for even now, right, Claude is very good in coding, but something else, some other model is very good in question answering in certain domains and things like that. So just like humans, right? I mean, humans, even though we call humans as a AGI system, so some humans are good at one thing, some humans are good at another thing. They're not. Everybody is not good at everything, right? It's just that we start with a system that is capable of learning everything. So the question is AI going to get to a point where it is capable of learning everything without additional engineering and hand holding? We're some ways from that. Yet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what is going to happen is all this promise of AGI and people who are plunging money into these models because of this vague goal, AGI goal that they are chasing, right? There might be some backlash at that, right? So some of that funding might slow down, and AI, typically we talk about AI going through cycles of winter and then spring, and I think we might not get an AI winter again because just too much of AI is around us everywhere, right? So the significant investment in AI in non Gen AI also, right? There's so
Yeah.
much work that has happened. For example, all your Alexas and things like that. I mean, kids nowadays talk to AI more often than they talk to humans also, right? So all of these things, I think AI is not going to kind of vanish from the picture, but I hope there will be like an AI autumn, so where we can take
Okay.
stock and
Okay.
then figure out what are the directions of research that are likely to pursue. So that will happen. So some amount of hype busting will happen.
Okay.
Bubble busting will happen, but not a full collapse like it happened in the past.
Yeah, these writers, what they are mentioning is that huge amount of investment is happening in AI, and these companies, they don't know how to get it back. That's the major issue
That's a
these
major issue.
writers are pointing out.
Yeah. So we still haven't quite cracked the monetization angle. I mean, why do you need an AI that can solve math Olympiad problems for most of the stuff that you want the AI to do? Right? I mean, you can be a great writer, but you can't be able to. You don't have to be able to do math Olympiad problems, right?
Yeah.
So why are they pushing the boundary? So if you have an AI that is already very good at crafting sentences and writing things in 15 different styles, I can give the same text and ask it to write. No, then I don't like this. Can you make this little bit more emphasis on this kind of a viewpoint? Then it changes it. It's already very good at writing. So that kind of an AI. How am I going to go and monetize it properly? Right? Am I happy with just taking this, 2 rupees per token or whatever, $20 per month? Is that the monetization model that you want to look at, or is that some other thing that you should be looking at? I think people should start building products around these AI. Having this raw AI out there and helping people play around with this is just not pushing the boundary enough in terms of AI adoption, in my opinion. I think people should start be more carefully designing products with guaranteed service and things like that, and then look at how you can monetize it.
Yeah.
And then go back to driving this hype cycle again.
Okay.
So I think that's what happened in the previous hype cycles also. People hyped up the the general capabilities of AI too much, and then when the winter set in, they actually went into doing more and more applications, and then we pushed the boundary on that, and then we went back to the hype cycle again.
Yeah. So what is the analogy of winter, summer, and autumn? Is it the regular?
So AI winter, so it's actually something that happened. So AI goes back a long time, right? So AI started in the 50s, right? So in 56, 57 and all that, the hype had started building up already, right? So the Navy, the US Navy was said, we have developed this AI model that will go out and explore outer space on behalf of human beings. It can think, it become conscious of its own existence. I mean, this is in 56 or 57, they were writing articles on this, right? And this is crazy, right? I mean, obviously, even today, AI is nowhere near becoming conscious of its own existence, reproduce itself. No, we are not at there, right?
Yeah.
But people are talking about it in the 50s, saying that this will happen, right? And then the kind of investments and other things went up crazily. There were AI products, AI chatbots that were being sold in electronic stores. Like Radio Shack is a very popular electronic store in the US. So people were selling AI products in the electronic store and stuff like that. And in the late 60s, right? So somebody showed that hey, AI can't solve very, very simple problems. Also, the current technology is not able to solve simple choice problems, right? It just tanked. And once that demonstration came, people said, "Oh yeah, I can see. Oh, now I see why AI didn't work here. Why I know now I know why AI didn't work here." And so the whole thing collapsed, right? So and then you could not say you were working in AI at that point. You could not say you were doing research in neural networks, and then you will not get funded. You will not get your company will not raise money. So in the 60s, right? That's like early 70s, it just went completely dead. So they called that the AI winter, the first AI winter, right? And then in 83, some papers started coming out. So people showed how those simple problems, which in the 60s they said the AI can't solve, how you can solve them. And then they started building on. Again, it was neural networks. Now we talk about deep networks and LLMs. Back then also, it was a neural network that managed to do that. And so again the interest started picking up, right? So and then people started again investing more and more. So in the mid 80s, again it started picking up, right? And the mid 90s, early 90s, what happened, that new technologies came in, right? That said, oh, we can solve all of these problems which AI can't solve and which neural networks can't solve. And then again the hype started going up. Then people again came to the point where they couldn't quite translate into industrial deployment. So they were all able to do, in certain areas they were able to do very well, but they were not able to get into industrial deployment. So what started happening is the areas where they were doing well kind of started moving away from identifying themselves as AI. So they become natural language processing, computer vision, speech technology. So all the places where they had some amount of success went away and tried to start their own field. And again, AI went into another winter. So if you say you're doing fundamental AI research, nobody. In fact, there was articles in the early 2000s which said that if you say that you are having your company is doing AI or robotics, right? That was the death knell in the Silicon Valley. So you could not raise any money. Again, it went back to that point, right? In the early 2000s, AI again had this downfall. And again, 2015 or so, 2012, 2013, again, deep networks picked up and they were actually beginning to solve very hard vision problems. So again, interest went up in AI. Again, there's a little bit of saturation. We never went into a proper winter because the LLM revolution came very, very soon after that, right? And LLMs basically said, hey, we have now solved language also. So deep networks solve vision, LLMs solve language, and so this vision and language problems that were plaguing AI is gone. So then the people just thought, oh, now there's nothing left for us to do. AI just now needs to go to AGI. That is not going to happen. So I think again we have to have a reset of expectations, like it happened in the two winters. And
So where are we now? Winter, autumn?
I don't think we're going to get a winter. Okay. So we're still in the summer, but edging towards autumn, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not. I mean, as far as good quality research and good quality product building is concerned, I don't think that will be a big hit.
Yeah.
I think that's why I call it an autumn. It's the hype funding that's going to go down, not like the entire field shutting down like it happened in the previous winters. Yeah. I don't think that will happen.
Okay. So now let's talk about the social inequality angle. So will AI increase the social inequality gap or will it reduce it?
AI is a tool, right? So it depends on how you deploy the tool. Right? So I think if you're just going to let the thing go as it is, right? So whomsoever has access to smartphones, whomsoever has access to, good power structure, and whomsoever has access to, top-notch computing and things like that, they are the ones who are going to have access to AI as well. The AI is going to be a force multiplier. It's going to help you do things better. But then if you're not going to enable access to AI to people who don't have access to the existing digital technology, then the digital divide is going to get worse. Because you have the digital haves and the digital have-nots. And the digital haves are going to get more empowered by the use of AI. And the digital have-nots are going to stay there. So the divide will get worse. Right? On the other hand, because AI is making interfaces so simple, We can just talk to digital technology. So you don't need to know how to use an app. You don't need to train yourself to do stuff. You can continue talking in your local language and still be able to access some of these AI devices, AI services, right? So if we actually knuckle down as a government, as a society, we knuckle down and make sure that AI services are available to the the digitally disadvantaged now. Just they could call on a phone, like a regular phone, feature phone, just be able to talk to an AI system and get services, which they were not able to do earlier because the technology was not there. So I think AI can reduce the divide, provided we take cognizance of this and make sure that we enable access throughout the society. That's a challenge, but we have to do it.
That's a kind of in farming or weather prediction. I mean,
Everywhere.
it will affect.
Everywhere. It can help farmers, big
yeah,
time, right? It
yeah.
can
And
tell
in
you, it can
fishers.
make predictions about what kind of vegetable, what kind of seeds to plant this time, whether there is a drought expected, how's the weather pattern going to be, are there going to be a storm in the sea,
Yeah, correct. Finally, Professor, what are your expectations in 2026 about the development of AI?
See, one of the things that I have always been looking forward to, right, is to see how we can use AI in a large scale in India. Right? So the models that we have in the US, right, are certainly not scalable for the Indian context. We really have to rethink. I mean, we can't be spending this much power and this much energy for running your AI models, right? So there must be a different way of doing these things for it. I mean, we know, I mean, for every problem, right, you don't need a LLM or Gemini 3.5 to solve it, right? There are other ways of solving these problems, and maybe you take help with the Gemini 3.5, figure out what is the right AI to use for solving this problem. I don't know, but at the end of the day, there are so many things that can be done, right? Whether it be healthcare, whether it be education, right? There are so many. For example, there are about 1 lakh schools in India which have exactly one teacher for all standards, right? So can we do something for people like that using AI? I think going forward, I think we have to start thinking not just about competing at the cutting edge of publishing at the top venues or setting up the next a 90 billion company to compete with OpenAI and things like that. Great, I mean, all of that is fine, but what we really need to do is buckle down and solve our problems and make sure that it's not that the solutions are available. We don't know. We still have to do research, right? But do the research in the right direction to make sure that we are building deployable AI models that can work in the Indian context. And that is something that I hope we make significant progress in 2026 and have an actual change on the ground using AI.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Thank you.